My job in recruiting was to call the most successful people on earth and to try to recruit them away to come work for an organization that they'd never heard of, for a job they didn't know existed, from a recruiter they definitely didn't know existed. And it sounds like a tough job, except the fact that despite all this success, which is why I was calling them, they weren't very happy, which is why they were calling me back. I was also helped by the fact that there's like a handful of things that will encourage anybody at any time to consider making a change. You probably have this same list that you're thinking about when you reach out to people. What's going to hook them? What's going to get them excited? In recruiting, there were things like, what's the mission of the organization? Am I inspired by the leader? What kinds of new skills will I learn? How much money am I going to make? Now, let's use the metric of money as an example. How many of you love to go on beautiful, incredible, short weekends away to cosmopolitan places where you're maybe getting that upgrade to first class, you're staying in that suite that has those 800 thread count sheets, and you're having that breakfast in bed while you're overlooking Times Square? Does that sound good to anybody here? And how many of you say, actually, I don't really need a lot of money. I need a lot of time off because I would much rather go deep into the wilderness and I'd love to have that breakfast in my sleeping bag over the campfire, making my eggs, looking out at the Grand Canyon. See, one of those takes a lot of money but not a lot of time, and the other one takes a lot of time and not a lot of money. I used to recruit these candidate pools, and I had these great, amazing, beautiful, diverse candidate pools, and then they would fall apart, and what I realized was they were looking for meaning, and I was armed with this checklist, with this scorecard. And what I came to understand is that it's not about any of these metrics, it's about the meaning of these metrics to you. I want you to understand that in this acceptance of this scorecard, this success scorecard that you might be carrying around, you're being limited. And we're so limited by everybody else's definition of who we should be and what we can be, and God forbid what we can't be and shouldn't be, that we lose ourselves. Now, I saw firsthand during this career the damage that is caused by the chasm between who you are and what you're doing, the chasm between purpose and action, the chasm between your potential and your actual day-to-day activity. And I came to learn that true happiness, true success, comes from 4 particular elements: calling, connection, contribution, and control. And I call the combination of those 4 things consonance. Now listen, consonance sounds like a really tricky word, but it's kind of a tricky feeling. Have you been in those moments where you just feel like things aren't working? You're banging your head against the wall. You're having like organ rejection failure. Those are not the moments you're in consonance, my friends. On the other hand, how many of you have felt with LeVel, with Thrive, alignment and flow, where the very best of who you are is being called upon to solve a problem you actually care about? And you're being rewarded for solving that problem with awards, with cars, with trips. These are the moments when you are in consonance. These are the moments when what you do matches who you are. So I started my own firm, and I created the most amazing PowerPoint presentation. On the first page was my logo. And on the second page was my mission statement. And on the third page was my picture. And on the fourth page would have been my building if I had one. But like you, I ran that business from my living room, so I didn't have one. And it wasn't until I got to page 5 and 6 and 7 that I started to talk about my process, my super geeked out process. And I thought I would sell a lot of work, and I didn't sell any work. So what did I do wrong? Well, it turns out that my logo, my mission statement, my picture, my living room, my process were actually not meaningful to the client, so it wasn't meaningful to the sale. Let me ask you a question, my thrivers. What is more enticing, powders and packets and patches, or reaching peak mental and physical levels? That is some good copywriting, folks. Your customers come to you and they say things like, my problem is so hard. My problem is so unique. But it's not hard. It's hard to them. It's not unique. It's unique to them, but it's not unique to you because you've seen it and you've solved it. And all that is left is for them to understand that you get their problem. That you will carry their problem in your hands until such time as the shared problem goes away. Now, how many of you live in a place where you dream of a white Christmas every year, but no matter how much you dream, it will never, ever, ever snow? Where are my Southerners in the house? So as I mentioned, I grew up a nice Jewish girl in Miami. So this is what I thought Christmas looked like for the first 18 years of my life. Mall Santa. Perfect storybook trees. This one was silver. That one was gold. This one was all white. My parents, no matter how much I argued, refused to get a tree. And I couldn't wait until I moved out, and one day I would finally get that first tree of my own. And then I met lots of Spark John from Cincinnati, Ohio. I got a Cincinnati, Ohio whoop. I like that. I'm going to go home and tell him he got a hooday. So I go home to lots of Spark John's house, and I couldn't wait. I was like, what color are they going to pick? What theme are they going to pick? And it turns out they didn't pick. They took all of them. All of the colors and all of the themes. I thought we would have this perfect storybook Christmas. But I watched in horror as they started one by one carrying these boxes, these old, dirty, tattered, torn boxes from the attic. And one by one started pulling out these old, dirty, torn ornaments. This one was blue. That one was green. This one is chartreuse with like a, is that sparkles or have they all worn off? I don't understand what's happening there. Didn't they know? All these years they could have had perfect magical storybook Christmas, and all these years they chose this. But then they started to tell the story. They started to tell the story about each and every one of these ornaments. Do you remember great Aunt Helen who made this for you when you were first born? Do you remember when we tried to pick out an ornament and it took us an hour in the store in Niagara Falls? Do you remember when your team won that championship and we got this ornament? And they started to tell the story after story after story of these imperfect, mismatching, horrible, ugly, personalized ornaments, and I fell in love. I fell in love. And I'm proud to say it's been over 20 years and 20 trees since, and our own ornament collection at home has gotten more and more mismatched and ugly and personalized and perfect. Now, it's not just me. Do I have any Michiganders in the house? Wow. Take that, Ohio. Michigan's kicking your butt. You might recognize this store. It's called Bronner's. It's the largest year-round Christmas store in the world. It is the size of 2 football fields. The parking lot fits 2,500 cars. There is a $1,250 monthly electric bill. There is a 17-foot Santa in the front and a 15-foot snowman in the back, and if the younger version of me had seen this store, her head would have exploded. But my sense is that it's so chaotic in there that nobody even would have noticed. Bronner sells 2 million ornaments every single year. 2,400,000 of these are these horrible, ugly, mismatched, personalized, perfectly storybook Christmas ornaments. A lot like this one, my favorite ornament. This is me and my husband. We got this ornament in a corporate swag bag before we could afford to buy any of our own. And we took a little Polaroid that happened to be sitting on the table and we stuck it inside. Look, we're babies. And that ornament goes on our tree every single year, along with all those other ornaments that have been demoted to filler, or the ones that we bought on December 26th on sale. And we laugh about how far we've come since that first Charlie book, or the first Charlie Brown storybook, 3-ornament tree, because we have realized that, in fact, our definition of success isn't that perfect, beautiful storybook tree, but in fact, it's cramming our mess onto that moment. Because meaning matters. And that means we gotta just piece out on everybody else's definition, because when we get rid of everyone else's definition of success, we make space for our own.